Warning: this video contains spoilers for The Last of Us Episode 3. The Last of Us Episode 3 is probably HBO's best episode yet. The question of its outcome. The Last of Us Episode 3 follows the end of the previous game, with Joel and Ellie fleeing Boston while still haunted by Tessa's death. As the duo travels through the countryside, the episode shifts focus to the destination, the city of Lincoln. Lincoln is obsessed with Bill, played by Nick Offerman on HBO's The Last of Us, a survivor who takes control of the town in the days of the outbreak after everyone else has left for various national quarantine zones. The Last of Us Episode 3 focuses on Bill and Frank, a duo who achieve beautiful results in the harsh world of the show. From the many twists and turns to some of the key gameplay differences in The Last of Us, here's everything about The Last of Us Episode 3 finale. What's wrong with Frank? One of the main plot elements in Frank and Bill 2023 Episode 3 revolves around Frank's illness. After several time jumps, Frank is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. It turned out that Frank was confined to a wheelchair most of the day with a debilitating disease that also causes muscle stiffness. Frank also pointed out that there was no cure for his illness prior to the outbreak, meaning that in the post-apocalyptic, insect-infested world of The Last of Us, seeking a doctor, as Bill suggested, was futile. Why did Bill kill himself in Episode 3 of The Last of Us? At the end of Bill and Frank's story, Frank insists on having one more perfect day with Bill before crushing his pills and putting them in wine so he can die peacefully on his own terms. This was most likely a response to his illness, which unfortunately erased many aspects of his previous health. In a surprising move, especially for The Last of Us gamers, Bill reveals that he put Frank's pills in their shared bottle of wine, meaning that Bill will suffer the same fate as Frank. This is a drastic change from the original game, when Bill was still alive when Joel and Ellie, played by Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, left Lincoln in HBO's The Last of Us. As for Bill's reasons for doing so, that's all about the story told in The Last of Us Episode 3. Bill and Frank's love for each other is so strong that Bill sees no reason to continue living in a world without Frank. If Frank is dead and Bill is alone, then the latter's purpose in existence is lost, which means that Bill tragically and romantically wants to go with Frank. Why didn't the end of The Last of Us Episode 3 show Bill and Frank's bodies? The death of Bill and Frank at the end of The Last of Us Episode 3 raises the question of why the show didn't show their bodies. After Joel and Ellie leave the Lincoln, as Joel and Ellie drive away, the camera slowly pans back from the open window in Bill's house, presumably leading to the bedroom where Frank and Bill are dead, marking the biggest story change in The Last of Us. While it's not inappropriate to show dead bodies in a show as awful as The Last of Us, it's appropriate not to show Bill and Frank's thematic argument. In such a dark world, the focus of such a beautiful love story is two people who live peacefully in their own way. Showing the dead bodies of Bill and Frank would weaken the theme. Bill and Frank's ending feels more solemn by not showing the bodies and doesn't ruin the beautiful story and ending by showing the rotting corpses of these two great characters. What it means for Ellie to take Frank's gun. As for Joel and Ellie's story, one of the elements that will play a big role in the future of the series is Ellie taking Frank's gun in The Last of Us. Nick Offerman's Bill is shown to have a number of weapons stashed in his bunker, while Episode 3 of The Last of Us shows a group of thugs attacking Lincoln, highlighting the gun Frank had in a drawer. At the end of the episode, after Joel and Ellie find out what happened to Bill and Frank, Ellie finds the gun and takes it without Joel's knowledge or consent. This ties in with Ellie's gun-asking joke in The Last of Us Episodes 1 and 2, but also points to darker things to come. From the game, Joel and Elijah's next story involves a group of bandits taking over a city. The city in the game is Pittsburgh, but HBO's The Last of Us changed that to Kansas City. Although the location has changed, the story will definitely stay the same as Ellie will soon have to face the harsh reality of having to use Frank's gun. Tommy's Firefly story explained. With Bill and Frank dead in The Last of Us Episode 3, Joel's plan to keep Elijah with him is no longer possible. With that in mind, Joel said he would take Ellie to Tommy's house. This benefit is twofold, allowing Joel to check he's safe after the setup in The Last of Us Episode 1 and allowing Ellie to go to Firefly. Joel explains that Tommy is a Firefly, which means he probably knows where to take Ellie. It gives us a glimpse into his life after the 2003 time jump in The Last of Us, and why Tommy isn't in Boston in 2023 with Joel. Bill's letter tells of Joel's journey. Warn, this section contains major spoilers for the original The Last of Us game. At the end of The Last of Us Episode 3, Ellie reads Bill's suicide note to anyone but maybe Joel. In Bill's letter, he called Joel directly because the former knew he could contact the latter. Bill said he used to hate the world and was happy when everyone died. He went on to say that he was wrong and that there was one person worth saving, and that was Frank. Bill said that people like him and Joel were supposed to protect people and God help anyone who stood in their way. Although Bill implied in the letter that Joel had to protect Tess, it was actually a foreshadowing of Joel and Elijah's journey. At the start of the 2023 portion of The Last of Us timeline, Joel is aloof, world-weary, and hates the world as much as Bill does for Sarah's heartbreaking death. Eventually though, Joel will realize that Ellie is there for him and he will do anything to protect her. This foreshadows his ultimate decision to save Ellie from Firefly at all costs. The ending sequence of episode 3 reverses the truck scene from episode 1. Finally, Joel and Ellie drive Bill's truck out of Lincoln, which is exactly the same as in the first episode of The Last of Us. The scene in episode 1 where Sarah and Joel try to escape the pandemic is similar to Joel and Ellie driving Bill's truck in Linda Ronstadt's Long Time. While the song is important in establishing Bill and Frank's romantic relationship, righting our last LGBTQ+ wrong in the game, the line "I love you for a long time" also refers to the final father-daughter love that Joel will come to empathize with Ellie, anticipating their future journey in The Last of Us. New episodes of The Last of Us air every Sunday on HBO. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and support my channel.